It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by emailrevealer.com. If you listen to this show for the first time, please check out oppermanreport.com. Visit our website there, and we have check out the members section, because we have all these special shows, extra content that you never hear on the air, that are available only exclusively to our subscribers on the members section. Now, we got a really, I was excited about this show to begin with. But then it turned out we got a special surprise here. We have Millie McGhee-Morris, who's the author of this book. Brother, my thing just froze up on me here. Millie, what's the name of your book?
You're going to be talking about Secrets Uncovered, J. Edgar Hoover Passing for White. I'm an author of 7 books, but that's the one we're going to talk about today. And also the film, the documentary that came from the book, which is called What's Gone in the Dark, and it's the Millie McGhee story.
Gotcha. And all these 7 books can be found on MillieMcGhee-Morris.com.
Correct.
And also, too, I have a link, too. I'm going to have a link on the Opperman Report bookstore, and also on the blog spot. We'll have links to all the Amazon links on there. But at the last second, now get this, we were joined by a retired FBI agent, Wesley Swearin, who actually worked underneath J. Edgar Hoover. Maybe not literally. We don't want to get too personal, considering all the rumors about Hoover. But, Mr. Swearingen, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, give us a little idea about yourself. Tell us about yourself. What do I call you? Detective Swearingen?
No, I was a special agent, and I worked for J. Edgar Hoover for 21 years.
Very good. Now, you've written many books yourself, right?
Yes, I have written one book, FBI Secrets and Agents Expose, which is available on Amazon.com. And then I wrote another book, To Kill a President, which is about the killing assassination of John F. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy.
Okay.
And I also have a website. It's Oswald Did Not Kill JFK.com. It's all one word. Oswald did not kill JFK.
And that's a special agent retired Wesley Swearingen. Now, Wesley, we definitely have to have you come back, because I do a lot of JFK shows. I've had a lot of people on there. I've had St. John Hunt, E. Howard Hunt's son, on the show several times. So we definitely have to have you back and cover all of that kind of stuff. But, Millie, you're the one I found originally, and you seem like such a charming woman here. And you also have a show yourself, right?
Yes. I have a new show that's airing the 1st of November called The Miss Millie Show. And it's Women International Network, Women Information Network. And it's we have membership of over 43,000 women that are members of the WIN. And I am going to be interviewing women about what they're doing, entrepreneurship, what they want to do, or would they like to become a writer, teaching them how to write a book, how to become an author. So it's exciting.
It sounds very interesting. Okay, I can't wait to check that out. So give us an idea, what is this story about? Now, you're related to J. Edgar Hoover?
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, I have honestly forgiven him, and I'm able to be at peace with the fact that I had a relative that was very powerful, very educated. Really, I can't say he was a good man, because I really didn't know him, but I know of his work. My grandfather told me a family secret when I was only 10 years old. He told me, because I had a history class, and I love history, And I came home and asked my father to take me to see my grandfather because I had heard at some of the family reunions that we were related to the Hoovers. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't J. Edgar Hoover. Because at that time, almost all the kids, even at 10 years old, told that he was a bad man, that everybody was afraid of him. He was the FBI director, and but at that time, I don't think he was a director when I was 10. I think he was involved with the FBI and West, what did they call it, in about 1957. He wasn't the FBI director.
It was the Bureau of Investigation.
Right.
And so everybody, even at that, he was a tough character.
And this was in the 50s, you said, by 59?
Yeah, I learned about it in 1957. I was 10 years old.
Okay. So, and then what did they tell you? How were you
My
related?
grandfather, when I went to him, because there was a lot of talking class, and we were studying presidents, U.S. presidents, and a young man in the class said, J. Edgar Hoover is the president. And I, knowing my history, because I love history, knew that J. Edgar Hoover was not a president. I knew that Herbert Hoover was a president. So I said, that's not true. And so we got into a debate. We had a debate class, and I decided to go and talk to my grandfather before I told them that some of my relatives was Hoovers. So I went to my grandfather. I never forget it. It was one Sunday. I ran up on the porch, and I asked him, I said, Big Daddy, is J. Edgar Hoover related to us? And he said, and I quote, that old goat is my second cousin.
Now, okay.
And after he said that to me, he realized he had said something he shouldn't have said to a child. And he said to me, you can't tell. I said, oh, wait till I go back and tell my class. I thought even knowing that J. Edgar Hoover wasn't a good character, he was still famous to me. He was on television. He was famous. So I wanted to tell my class that he was related to my grandfather, and he was his second cousin. My grandfather said, wait, daughter, you can't tell that. He said, he'll have us all killed as we sleep. And can you imagine being 10 years old and told that? You'll be killed as you sleep. And if you tell it, not just you, your whole family. So now this little 10-year-old girl has the burden of her entire family's life on her hands. Frightened me so badly until I was a very outgoing kid. I remember drawing in and not wanting to talk about history or family anymore after that.
Oh, that's a shame. Now, were there other relatives that confirmed this?
Oh, yes. I confirmed it through research because as I grew up, I started having nightmares. It affected me something terrible. I started having nightmares of being burned up, and I didn't understand it. So I actually went through 4 husbands with these dreams and screaming and fighting. And my husband that I'm married to now said to me that something happened because you wouldn't have those reoccurring dreams unless it's a premonition or something is happening. So he started me with a therapist, and we talked it out, and I started talking to my mom. My mom was alive at that time, and then I started doing research. That's when I got very, very interested in family history, finding your roots. So I just decided not to ask any more questions, to look into the family history myself, remembering that my grandfather also told me that I wouldn't be able to find it, that he was going to erase it. He was going to destroy all the records. And I'm saying, how can he do that? He has to have a birth record. I remember all that. And I remember finding these documents that proved everything my grandfather said, documents about our lives and J. Edgar Hoover's lives intertwined with ours, erased and scratched out and all of that. It took me a good 8 years of research. Cost a lot of money. But I wanted to do it. I needed to do it.
Yeah, because back in those days, we didn't have computers and stuff. You had to go down to the library and, pull out all those, newspaper files and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I tell you, they could say anything they want to say about the Mormons, but I tell you, those people kept good records. And I stayed 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month, because I went back 2 or 3 weeks, and I stayed in Salt Lake City at the Mormon Library and found a lot. And then I got involved with the African American organization called Oz, and all of their researchers, the historians, took the paperwork, laid it out, and started piecing all of my research together. And that's when we found connections to my grandfather and J. Edgar Hoover. And lo and behold, Ed, we found that J. Edgar Hoover wasn't his second cousin, he's actually his first cousin. And that was, and it's all in the film, because when we was doing the research, my husband hired a film crew to follow me, and everything I was doing, I wanted to have it firsthand on footage. And I have over 80 hours of footage all over, going everywhere: Atlanta, Washington, D.C., New Orleans, Mississippi, everywhere, talking to relatives. I have it all on footage. And when I found that information that showed my grandfather was actually his first cousin, it was the biggest find ever in research history, from oral history. We all was very happy, and Wes was involved in a lot of it, and he'll tell you his part. But it was very interesting to find that, and also to be able to forgive J. Edgar Hoover for his actions, because I, as a child, had a lot of hate toward him, because as a child I was involved with Martin Luther King movement. And I remember at 16 years old, I remember J. Edgar Hoover hitting his fist on the table and saying that Martin Luther King was a notorious liar. And as a child, he was like everything to us. And it just really upset me to have a relative say something like that. So I found myself with a lot of hate toward this man I don't even know. So I had to deal with that within my own spirit to learn to forgive him, so that I can move forward with my life and let go of all these nightmares.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. One is, was your whole family light-skinned? Because obviously if he was passing for white, he must have been light-skinned, right?
My family, that's sweet. Yes, he was light-skinned, and my family is multi-colors. I mean, we have dark people in our family, we have light skin, and that's part of the reason that everybody thought I was very fair when I was young, much fairer than I am. But when you are biracial, your melanin in your skin changes as you age.
Oh, really?
And actually that's what was happening to J. Edgar Hoover. And I'll let Wesley tell you some of the things that they discussed as FBI agents about him. His hair was a lot like my hair. He actually had it straightened. I guess they put stuff in it to straighten it. But he had, if you look at his younger pictures, I found pictures of him that we had in our family pictures when he was a young boy.
Really?
Yes, and so he looked biracial when he was younger, but as he got older, he put a lot of stuff in his hair. But if you take a look at the film, you'll see some of the pictures. I put some of the pictures in the film. You can see that. And I have to say this, as he got older, he, and Wes can correct me, he ran the bureau from his house because his skin was getting darker and darker.
Really, Wes? Then did you guys notice that?
Yes, and almost 50 years before I ever met or heard of Millie McGhee, there were rumors within the FBI that Hoover had a black father, but you had to be careful who you discussed this with, or you'd liable to end up being fired. You know, if word ever got back to J. Edgar Hoover that some agents out in Chicago or Los Angeles or New York were implying that Hoover was African American and Hoover heard about it, you would be fired right now. I mean, if you didn't wear the proper hat, or if you weren't clean shaven, if you didn't have your hair cut every 2 weeks, Hoover would fire you. So any implication that he might be black, you had to be very careful who you talked to about the subject. But it was discussed among agent friends that he had very short hair. It was, kind of black and greasy, and I always wondered, why does a man have his hair cut almost to the top of his head? And it looks like he gets it shaved every 2 or 3 days. And, it was something that we thought about, but we never had any concrete information. And then, as an FBI agent, when we investigate people for a job, one of the first things we do is check their birth certificate.
Right. And
there were rumors among FBI agents that, gee whiz, we can't find a birth certificate on J. Edgar Hoover. And he's director of the FBI. But some agents did find one several years later. It was filed several years later after he was born. And that seems strange. Here's a man who's director of the FBI. His background should be, squeaky clean. You want to look at a birth certificate? Oh, there it is. You go right to it. Bam. You want to check out this? You want to check out that? Everything should be perfect. But agents, being investigators, were just curious, and sometimes agents would check different records, and there were rumors soon after I joined the FBI in 1951 that Hoover had been arrested while he was in college or of college age for some unusual sexual activity. No one ever knew exactly what it was, but apparently he was arrested, and we don't know the details, for having a gay affair, if you want to put it that way.
Right.
And he was arrested under the name of John E. Hoover. Well, this is all rumor, and some of it has been verified by authors that have done a lot of research. But this was all rumor back in the 50s and 60s. And the rumors in the FBI were usually pretty accurate because we're all investigators, and so we don't just pass around phony information. But once someone digs up information, and the service between agents was so rapid that if an agent found out something, especially in Washington, D.C., if some event happened at the Bureau, agents in Los Angeles would know about it before the evening news. That's how quick it was, because an agent who maybe used to be assigned to Los Angeles was now working in Washington, D.C., and he would hear something about J. Edgar Hoover or the associate director, Clyde Tolson, or any one of the assistant directors. If he heard something that was of interest, he'd call his buddy in Chicago or Los Angeles and tell him all about it. And so the rumor mill was fast and usually very accurate.
How often would you meet with Hoover?
We heard these rumors about J. Edgar Hoover, but you wouldn't want to discuss it with your boss, for instance, because you'd surely end up being fired. So you discuss it with agents on your level. And after you've known an agent for 6 months to a year, you know whether you can trust him with something like this. You say, well, gee, have you ever heard that J. Edgar Hoover's natural father was black or African American? And as I say, you want to be very careful who you say this to. And he said, well, yeah, I heard it, but I didn't put much stock in it, and I didn't want to ask around because if word got out to Hoover, I'd end up being fired. So we all kept things like this very quiet.
Well, let me ask you this, Wes. How often would you meet with Hoover face-to-face?
I met him twice, face to face. Now, other agents that were higher up were agents in charge of offices. They would see him more often. But Hoover did not associate with the special agents who were out in the field
so
working.
When you first met him, did he strike you as possibly being black?
I had the impression that maybe, but I thought, well, that's just my imagination, and
right.
Why should I get? Probably isn't anything to it. I just thought, gee, he doesn't look like my ancestors, English, Irish, Dutch, or Scottish, and having a name of Hoover, I thought, well, he should look like he came from England, maybe. But I didn't get into discussions until months later when I'm out in the field, and some of the older agents who used to work in the Bureau of Investigation, after they had sized me up as a new agent and knew that they could trust me, they would have coffee with me and say, don't tell anybody, but did you know this? Did you know that? And, of course, I didn't know it, but I had heard it. But I'm not going to say, well, yeah, I knew that. So I just pretend like I didn't know it. And I was getting the same kind of information that Hoover's mother had an affair with a black man. And, that's pretty far out. And so you had to be very careful who you discussed this with. And it never went much beyond that because no one ever had any real evidence. And then when I published my book, FBI Secrets, I had a section in there about how the FBI picked on African Americans and put innocent black men in jail. And I received a telephone call from Millie McGhee. And one of the first things she said was that she was a cousin of Edgar Hoover. And I had worked in Mississippi, and I recognized the Mississippi accent. And I was just about ready to hang up. I thought, well, this is what happens when you write a book. Everybody starts calling. And I thought, now, wait a minute. I've heard all sorts of rumors. This might be a chance for me to really find out the truth. So Millie started asking me questions and sending me emails, and I thought, oh boy, this is too far out. And she'd come up with something, and then I'd say, no, this is not going to fly. You've got to come up with something better than this, because if Hoover were still alive, he would tear you apart. And so she would work some more and review some more records, and then I remember one occasion where she was having a problem. I forget what the relationship was with a person, but the person says, well, there aren't any records in Mississippi. And I said, wait a minute. I worked in Mississippi, and there may not be county records, but all these plantation owners have records that are much better than any county record you ever saw, because all these slaves are personal property. And I said, I know, because I used to, when I wanted to verify someone's birth, instead of going to the county, I would go to the plantation owner and identify myself and say so-and-so has applied for a job with the U.S. government, and I need to verify his birth. And so they would open up the book, and there it is, just like the county record. And so I told Millie, I said, these plantation owners have records that you wouldn't believe. So I said, that's where you have to go. Anyway, she got connected with this Mormon outfit who does background and record checks, and she kept coming up with something, and she'd tell me, and she must have told me about 3 or 4 times, well, I have this, and I said, don't you need more? And then she said, well, I have this, and I don't you need more? And finally, I was getting so fed up, but I think, this has been a long time now, I think I sent her an email in all capital letters, because I was getting disgusted that she was saying, what, she's found this and she found that, and I'd say, no, that's not enough, Millie. You need to do this and you need to do that. Well, she ended up doing this and doing that, and she proved to me that what she was saying was true. And now I'm convinced that all the rumors that I had heard 50 years ago were true. We just didn't have any verification of it because there was no FBI agent who was going to go out and say, guess what? I found this and I found that. I mean, he would have been fired yesterday.
Okay, Wesley, let me ask you this question. Because you're an investigator. If you were to take this case to court, what would you use as evidence, as a smoking gun, to convince and say, Ed, this is what we got?
Well, the documents that Lily has come up with, first I would start with the rumors that this is what agents talked about. And then there's a photograph of Edgar Hoover when he became director of the Bureau of Investigation. I think he was about 24 years old at the time, and it's a very good photograph, but his hair must be not much more than an inch long, maybe 2 inches at the most, but it's very tight. Kind of kinky, little wavy. Yeah. But it looks like what we used to do when I was in high school. We'd grease down our hair and put a lot of stuff on it, and try to impress the girls. And when I first saw that picture, I thought, wow. I used to do this in high school, but he's a grown man. You don't do this when you're a grown man and director of the FBI. And then I thought, well, okay, that's it. And then there were rumors that he and Clyde Tolson were lovers, but again, you had to be careful about that because you could lose your job. And the first time I saw a picture of Hoover and Clyde Tolson together, they were wearing these
Animals.
Yeah, the suit, and I looked at that and I thought, oh my God, yeah, he really is.
Hey, what do you make of? You hear these rumors that there's a picture of Hoover wearing a dress. Is that true?
There were rumors of that, and I don't know who came up with it, but I felt at the time that it was accurate, but I was not going to talk to any boss of mine about it because I wanted to keep my job. So I just kept my mouth shut. And I would hear these rumors that he had a black father, and that he was gay, and that he was a cross-dresser. But as I said, you only discuss this with your very, very good friends.
Now, you did research on the JFK assassination. Are you familiar with the name Gordon Novell?
I don't remember it right offhand.
Okay, Gordon Novell. A lot of people say that he looks just like the Umbrella Man. Okay, it was one accusation that he could have been the Umbrella Man at the JFK in Dealey Plaza. But also, too, he worked for Garrison. He claims he worked for Garrison as an investigator. And he also claims that he did work for William Ramsey Clark as an investigator. And now he claims that he's the guy who got the picture of Hoover in the dress. He's dead now. And he claims that he's the one that got the picture, and he was blackmailing Hoover with that picture. You never heard anything like that?
I know that Hoover was being blackmailed by the mafia.
Right.
And I don't know exactly who took the photograph, but that was another rumor that was seemed to be fairly accurate. And after I retired, I met a member of the New York Mafia, and he said that was true. I didn't know who actually took the photograph, but he said it's true, and the mob, the New York Mafia, had many more pictures of Hoover, and that's why Hoover never went after the mob. And it seems to bear truth until 1957, when there was a big mafia convention in Appalachian, New York. There were about 100 mafia members, and the meeting was discovered by a New York State trooper who was just running license numbers that were parked outside the big mansion, and he came up with some interesting names, and it hit the news. And then Hoover had no choice after 1957 or 59 to begin investigating the mafia. But all of us in the FBI felt that there was something behind pictures that the mob had. We didn't know who the cameraman was.
Yeah, I had heard those stories too. Novella also too. He's the guy who had he installed counter surveillance equipment in the Oval Office that no one could wiretap the Oval Office. He had some kind of bug screening anti-device that he had invented and installed in the Oval Office. But Millie, what were you about to say?
I was going to say you're going to interview Wes another time, and he has a lot. Wes, you have a lot to say to him about a lot of things that came up even when we interviewed you. But my interview was mostly about whether J. Edgar Hoover was related to my grandfather or not. And you asked the question to Wes that if he went before a review board or whatever, could he prove that J. Edgar Hoover was actually biracial?
Yeah, I'll ask you the same question. Millie, if you were to take this to court, what evidence would you bring to court?
First of all, I wouldn't want to, to be honest, I wouldn't want to take it to court because what I was doing was really trying to free my spirit from all this pain that I was going through.
Right.
But I do have proof. I do have proof that he is indeed my grandfather's first cousin. And what I have is a birth record of his biological father, who was murdered. And there was a rumor in my family that 2 Hoover relatives was murdered because they wanted to bring out the truth about who J. Edgar Hoover really was. My great uncle, Ivy Hoover, was J. Edgar Hoover's biological father. Uncle Ivy was having an affair with J. Edgar Hoover's biological mother, who is also mulatto. She was not, she was mixed as well. But she had married Dickerson Hoover, who was a white man. And I have all the proof to show how this affair went in the family from the oral history and also now in documents. I have the death certificates of other relatives that tells why they was killed, how they were killed. The 2 relatives that wanted to come out and show that he was actually the son of my uncle, my great uncle, was his father. Ivy Hoover was murdered. On his death records, it said no reason or no record of why he, the reason of his death. We know that he was murdered. His daughter, who he had before J. Edgar Hoover, who was J. Edgar Hoover's stepsister, she was 31 years old, had 5 children. She was murdered.
How were these 2 murdered?
Those 2 murders really frightened my family badly to everybody shut down.
How were they murdered?
That's the thing. We just know they were found dead. They were murdered.
Okay.
That's the rumor in the family. I wasn't born when it happened, but that rumor went on and on and on in the family to shut everybody down from talking about J. Edgar Hoover. Even when I was doing the film and went back with a crew of people and found some of the African-American Hoovers and this woman that was murdered, grandson, they were still whispering. They were still afraid even today to talk about what really happened. It was that bad. We went through newspaper after newspaper. It was all just hidden because this man that started all of this Hoover man that started the affairs with my great-great-grandmother, was a minister. He was a judge. He was big time back in Macomb, Mississippi, in that Pike County, Mississippi. So they had capability of erasing anything they wanted to erase. So there was no right. We couldn't even find the daughters, who was 31 years old, who was younger than her father. We found his death records, but we couldn't even find her death records. We found the grave. We stumbled on her grave, and her grandson was cleaning it, was taking care of it, and he told us a lot. That's all in my film. I have all these documents. So those documents prove it. I wanted to collaborate with Clint Eastwood when he got ready to do the J. Edgar. But the guy that I guess wrote the screenplay, somehow I couldn't get to him. I couldn't get to them to say I would like to collaborate because there's other stuff that would make the film very good if you want to make it a real true life history about J. Edgar Hoover, or you want to do it fiction. But I couldn't get to them. I did this work, as I said, to free me from having nightmares. And I didn't do it for any money, to make money from people, or to try to get land from the people. That there was all kinds of rumors that, oh, she's doing that because she wants to get his land. What land? The Hoovers gave my grandfather 80 acres of land. I wasn't doing this for that. Honestly, I was doing it because I wanted to get to the truth of what hurt me when I was 10 years old.
Well, you don't want the land. What you want to get is those blackmail tapes and all that stuff he had on people. That's what you want. You to get those records, man. Get your hands on those files, It'd be President Millie McGhee.
If somebody want to take that on and do that, I am willing to give them all of the research, all of the footage, everything that I've done, because I'm now writing and my life has moved on. It is a good piece of history. Yeah. It is worthy to come out correct. For somebody to do a movie that tells the absolute truth, it is worthy. And anybody out there that's a producer or a film director that wants this, just contact me through you, and they got it. Because
you asked what you would do if you went to court. One way to get the absolute truth now that we know about DNA would be to have Hoover's body remains resumed and do a DNA check, and that would answer the question once and for all.
That's so true. That would be so simple to do, too. I'm looking at
20 years ago, we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But you can do it now, and I've watched the TV program Forensics, and it is amazing what they can come up with years and years later.
Yeah, I was able to contact some of the white Hoovers who J. Edgar Hoover claimed to actually be connected with. Right. We actually had a family reunion, and they're also listed in the film. At that time, we wanted to do DNA of one of my uncles that was still alive, and and her dad. And I don't know if her dad is still alive now, because we haven't talked in a few years, because I had a very bad accident in 2008, and I've been kind of recovering from surgeries. But now I'm understanding that you can have DNA between two women and find out if we're related to him. I didn't know that, but that's what I've heard. So we was willing to do that. But like I said, I have finished, and I have come to closure with this. Anybody out there that wants to continue with it, I have as much as you can get right here. Please.
I have a question for both of you, because what do you think? Hoover was notoriously racist. Okay. And what do you make of that? What do you think was behind that in his head going on, that he would be so racist when meanwhile he himself had a black father?
Well, you know, you have to look at where he was born in the 1800s, and in the 1800s, what I found out doing this research, J. Edgar Hoover was 18 years old when his grandmother told him his biography. I mean, where he came from, and he was biracial and all that. He did not, you know. Let me tell you one scenario. There's a picture of his mother in my book. You should get one of my books.
Yeah.
That one picture I found out from research, was in every room in his house. I have pictures of my mother in my house, but there are pictures of Thanksgiving, and there's a picture of Christmas, there's a picture of her and my grandchildren. There are different pictures, but there's one picture where she looks like a white lady. He had it even in his bathroom when you go to use the bathroom. What was that saying? I'm white, I'm white, I'm white. He had a psychological problem because he knew that if he would come out and say he was white or had any drop of black blood in him, he would be instantly killed. He was no fool. He knew that. That was one of the biggest secrets he had to hide. Also, when I was doing the research, I found a picture of this little white boy and his mother and his father. The mother was biracial, you could tell, and she was J. Edgar Hoover's biological mother. She was in the picture, and Dickinson Hoover. And this
back in 1924, when he became director, he would never have become director with a biracial father.
Exactly.
I mean,
listen to this. Now, this picture was given to a writer that was writing a book about, it's called Secrets of J. Edgar Hoover, Secrets of J. Edgar Hoover, Secrets something. He was writing this book, and J. Edgar Hoover gives him this picture and said, "This is me, my mom, and my dad." That wasn't him and his mom and his dad. And it was all in every book you look at. It was that picture. But that was Dickinson. That was his brother, his stepbrother, and his mom and his dad.
Oh, really?
But he knew that he wasn't white enough.
Oh,
and I went to the archives, and I went to his library, and I found that picture. And finally, it said under the picture, Dickinson, and Dickinson Jr. and his father. It wasn't J. Hoover, but I'm saying all these books are printed with that one picture saying this is J.E.
Okay, that's amazing. Now, why do you think that the cover-up story is going on until today?
Well, J. Edgar Hoover accomplished a lot. I mean, he's got his name on the street, on a building. I mean, he accomplished a lot. And there's a lot of people still here today that they don't want to believe that. They just don't want to believe it. And it's no reason to be cover-up. I mean, look how many people we have found that are biracial. We're all one person, human beings anyway. I mean, what's the big deal?
Yeah, we all started at the same place.
Exactly. My grandchildren, I got grandchildren, German, white, Filipino. We love each other. I mean, we have come past that. You know, there's no point in the cover-up.
So now,
only to say that he was very devious. He was a person that kept secrets on everybody. I believe in my heart that he had something to do with Martin Luther King's death. I believe that, and I will always believe it. I'm sorry, but he's my grandfather's first cousin, my cousin. But we all got things in our family that we're not happy about. The only thing we can do is be responsible for our own deeds. And I live my life for Millie, not for J. Edgar Hoover, not for anybody, but I leave my mark and my legacy about me.
So now, Millie, have you received any kind of threats or intimidation or anything like that?
Oh, no. Actually, I've received a lot of love. I've got emails and all kinds of, thousands and thousands of comments on this work. It's just that I did not put out the proceeds to promote it because I got hurt. It had just become, the Millie McGhee story had just, remember, Wes, we had just finished it, and I had a horrible fall, and I ended up having 7 surgeries. Okay. And I have been down ever since that film came out, its packets and everything. I haven't been able to promote it. No, I've had good reviews, and people want to hear it. And that was the reason I tried to reach Clint Eastwood to help him because I felt like if he'd had part of my story in that would have been pop. That would have been a pop. It would have really went well.
So, Wes, like, what happened? Like, all of Hoover's power died with him? All of his power just resided in him? He didn't have, like, an organization behind him?
I can't answer that.
Did. He had assistant directors and associate directors. Of course, by the time he died, Clyde Tolson was in such bad health that he didn't have much power. But he had power in the people who worked beneath him. And he always selected men who would say yes to him. Now, they're all college graduates, so they're not dummies.
Yeah. Well, they was afraid of him. If he got all, I can tell you this. There was a young girl. I don't know how we met. She wanted me to interview her. And she said, well, she wasn't young at the time I interviewed her, but she was young when she met with Edgar Hoover's staff. She was going to be an intern. And even his interns, he investigated. This girl went into her files and found stuff about her that her parents and family members had never told her that devastated her. So he was a very powerful man. He knew how to get you to shut your mouth and don't say anything. Look at it. Two people killed in my family. Everybody shut down. They was not talking because we all was going to be killed. And that was the reason my grandfather told me, keep my mouth shut.
There's no doubt that Hoover was probably one of the most powerful people in history, in American history. But my question is what happened to that power after his death? What happened to all that blackmail, all those tapes, all those files that he had?
They were burned the same day he died.
By who?
Well, it started with Helen Gandy, who was his secretary all the time that he was director of the FBI.
Now, why was this? Because he was so paranoid he didn't want that power falling into anybody else's hands beside his own?
He and the men who worked for him didn't want anyone else to know how many secret records he had, but he had secret records on the presidents and on congressmen and senators and governors and local politicians, and if any local politician made any bad statements about Hoover, then he would call him into the office or have an agent go out to where they were and present what he has. And just to give you an example of the Warren Commission that said that Oswald killed Kennedy.
Yeah.
When Warren was to be head of the Warren Commission, just to make sure that Warren went along with it, Warren was presented with some evidence that Hoover had that Warren had done something during his college years that would not be very favorable if it came out. And I don't know exactly what it was, but I know that it actually did happen, that Warren was presented with, okay, now you have to find Oswald guilty or else Hoover is going to expose what you did when you were in college.
Now, what would Hoover's motivation be to cover up the actual assassination of Kennedy?
I believe that Hoover's motivation was to keep himself safe.
Well, I know that. Yeah, I know that it was covered up because when I was in Chicago a year before Kennedy was assassinated, I was told by a Cuban exile that Kennedy was going to be assassinated and that the CIA was behind it. Now, the story is too long to go into it on the telephone here, but briefly, the CIA was training the mafia in Chicago how to kill someone. And when this man told me, I said, "You got to be kidding." It should be the other way around. The mafia should be telling the CIA how to kill somebody. He said, no. He said the CIA is training the mafia how to kill somebody so that it won't look like a mob hit. And I said, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. And he said they're doing it on the grounds of a university in Florida. And he didn't name the university, but it was in Florida. And I said, that's illegal. He said, they're doing it. And I said, the CIA is not supposed to operate within the United States. So when I told my supervisor, that's the first thing he said. It's illegal for the CIA to be doing this. I said, I don't care whether it's illegal or not. This is what this man says they are doing. Now, one other thing that Hoover wanted to cover up was that one of the FBI's top echelon informants in the Chicago mob was involved in the Kennedy assassination, and he was one of the ones who was being trained at the university. And I can prove it because after I retired, I had at least 3 other sources tell me that this one person was involved. Now, how would these other people know that this man was involved when everybody thinks that Oswald is the one who did it? Now, you don't get any better than that. And then one of the persons who told me was a member of the New York mob. He said that Johnny Roselli was one of the ones who shot at Kennedy. He didn't know whether he's actually the one who killed him, but he said he shot at him. Well, I was told a year before that Johnny Roselli was going to be there.
Oh, really? Oh, you know what,
after Kennedy is, after I retire, we're talking 30 years later, some New York mobster, whom I trust, tells me that one of the guys involved was one of the ones I was told about 30 years ago.
Okay, you know what, Wes? Maybe you and I, we can do a show next week at the same exact time.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because I don't want to get too far off of
okay, all right, yeah, okay.
But you and me got to talk for
I
sure.
understand.
Yeah, you and me got to talk for sure, man. Okay, because I got some new things that are coming up to me lately about the whole JFK thing. I've been working on it for years. But Millie, tying into this though, okay. What did you come up with about J. Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover being homosexual? Now, you were doing a lot of work on Hoover. What did you find out?
Well, I can only talk to you from the standpoint of family because I had a chance to meet his family, but the family he tried to attach him to, who ended up being a part of us as well, because my great-great-grandmother is related to them, so we're intertwined there. But talking to the White Hoovers, all of my family Hoovers, everybody feels like it was he could have been go both ways, but they felt like he used that to hide who he really was. Everybody in the family felt like if you were born in the 1800s, which would you rather let leak out, that you're black or you are gay? Honestly, so it was leaked out. Edgar Hoover didn't say it. It was leaked out that he was gay.
All right.
We, the family, never believed it because I got phone calls from women that had affairs with Edgar Hoover. I had a woman that called me that said she's from Europe somewhere and she had gotten pregnant by him. I told her, look, I'm not doing your story. You do your story. I'm doing my story. And I've had people call me and tell me that I know certain people that look black, look white, but they are black. And I'm like, I'm doing my story. But people just came out of the woodwork talking. But in my family, everybody believed that he was using a lot of that, allowing that to come out because he wanted to hide who he really was. And the man had some problems. I told you, you have to get I'm going to make sure I get your address, Ed, and send you the film. You need to sit down and look at it. You see a lot of Wes talking about things, and it's really an educational film. It's a documentary of real true history, documents and everything. I need to have you take a look at it, and you'll see that a lot of that being gay, maybe he was both. But he surely didn't come out and admit that he was black, that he had a drop of black blood in him. And like I said to everybody, a lot of the African Americans was not happy with this coming out because he was such an awful person. They said, we got enough on our back.
Yeah, nobody wants him. Yeah. And the blacks don't want him, the whites don't want him.
Yeah, we don't need Edgar Hoover. And I'm like, you're right, we don't. But we can't be in denial. The thing about it is he's not just black. I mean, this one drop rule, one drop of blood makes you black. I don't buy that. My thing is that how was he born? Where was he raised? What's his background? He was raised to be white. He chose to be white. He died saying I'm white. In my book, he's white.
All right. Well, Millie, we're down to like the last 4 minutes. So why don't you give us an idea where we can get all your books, your website, give us all the plugs you want to give us.
Okay, MillieMcGhee-Morris.com is everything. My contacts, my film, my books, everything is there. It's just MillieMcGhee.com.
And real quick, name off the books that you've written, because I know you've written like 7 books, right?
Well, 4 of my books was this series. It was first J. Edgar Hoover, Passing for White. Then it was J. Edgar Hoover, The Relative. And then it was not the day we left. It was What's Done in the Dark, the Millie McGhee story. And then I wrote The Day We Left. I wrote Drifted Back in Time. And I wrote a book called Wounded, Survive, and Thrive. And I've been in several other books with other authors. So I'm pretty well adversed on authoring books. And that's what I'm doing now, is helping new writers get published and teaching them how to do it themselves.
And what's the show you do?
The Miss Millie show.
Miss Millie show.
The Miss show. And it's coming out in November, the 1st of November. And the link to look for is the WIN, and it's the Women's Information Network.
Women's Information Network. And, womeninformationnetwork.com. And that will show you the women that I'm working with, and you'll be able to get, because that's where my show comes out of. That's their network. Gotcha. And Special Agent Wesley Swearin, where can people find you, and what are your books?
My first book was FBI Secrets, an Agent's Expose, and it can be found on Amazon.com. And my other book on the killing of President Kennedy is To Kill a President, and it can also be found on Amazon.com. It's available in Kindle format also.
And the website?
And the website is Oswald Did Not Kill JFK.com. It's all one word.
Okay.
Oswald did not kill JFK. And I have several pages on there that discuss other subjects besides JFK.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. And hopefully, Wes, I can get a hold of you during the week, and we can set something up for next week around the same time. So today was Secrets Uncovered, JFK Hoover, Passing for White. We had Millie McGhee-Morris and retired FBI agent, Special Agent Wesley Swearin. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Good night, sir. Okay. Oh, so that was the end of the show there. We got. I'm fooling around with a new Spreaker thing here to record the shows. It's a brand new DJ console. Okay, guys, this wasn't supposed to be live. If you heard it live, you got it for free. But otherwise, it's going to the members section. So good night, guys.